Hi, I'm Rod Khleif. Each and every week, I record an interview with a thought leader that I know you're going to get a ton of value from. Now, here on YouTube are the video versions of my podcast, Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. Now, to make sure you get the latest information, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let's get started. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to enjoy my friend who I'm interviewing today. His name is Raj Tekchandani. And Raj has got an interesting background and a background that kind of ties into our conversation today. Now, he's got, he's a general partner in over 400 doors, and he's in a limited partnership in 150 doors, working deals right now. He's very active. And so I'm excited to have him on the show. Raj, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Rod. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. So, let's start the way I usually start this by having you tell my listeners a little bit about, how you got into this business, who you are, and maybe why you love it.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I'm a technology entrepreneur turned a marketing executive turned a full-time real estate investor now. Got into technology early on, undergrad in computer science from a good reputed school in India, came to US to work and study, and got involved in all technology jobs and been doing tech. I was fascinated with early stage tech startups. So I've been a startup kind of guy most of my life. I've done some corporate gigs here and there, but never enjoyed that. Went back to startups, and then in 2012 was it, I got excited about real estate as one of my friends had started buying properties in Orlando, Florida. And I was wondering what is he doing and why is he doing that? And he said, come down with me to Orlando. And I went down and I looked at the property and the values, and at that time the values were great. And I got, okay, let me take a risk. And I bought my first condo in Orlando, Florida. That was back in 2012.
Just a single condo, just something you could say you had a place in Orlando, come down and bring the family, go to see Mickey Mouse, the whole thing.
Mickey Mouse, exactly. So that was the first condo, and like they say in Orlando, magic happens, and magic happened after that. I had some cash sitting in CDs. I was like, what is this cash doing here? Let me take the bet, and I said, so I started buying the next one, and ultimately ended up buying 9 condos. In Orlando in the same apartment complex. And beautiful, working out beautifully. We got a great property manager who, God bless her, is managing the properties for us. But I did sense that, there was something about single families versus, managing or having multifamilies, and I'm reading about multifamilies. And I said, okay, me take a little shift here. This is all still working full time in my startup gig. I don't know how many hours we're putting in. So this was only on the weekends. I did, took a deep breath and said, let me buy one. So a property came by near my hometown.
You said, just to recap, you said to yourself, let me really think about buying a multifamily. Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. And I was reading the advantages of, multifamily or single family, which now I can write a book on or, talk for hours. So that's what my first foray was. So I bought a 15-unit property near my house.
15, 1-5?
1-5, yes.
Okay, nice. And this is in the Boston area?
This is in the Boston area.
Okay, beautiful.
Suburbs of Boston, so it's not proper Boston where they're still affordable. And, I had some knowledge about, T12s and all that good stuff, but I said, this is going to be my seminar if it turns out to be good or bad. And I jumped into it, and lo and behold, the property has gone through its ups and downs, and great learning curve, and give me the confidence to deal with multifamily, deal with property managers, and move on to where I am now.
And do you still own it?
I still own it, yes.
So if you don't mind, before we go on to where you are now, talk a little bit about the ups and the downs. Give my listeners an idea of what to expect on the positive and the negative side. What are some of the things?
Absolutely. So let's start with the positives. I mean, the positives was that clearly I knew the market. It was in a neighboring town. That town is, I would say, a C town, and we live in a sort of upscale town. But I knew because of the vicinity of the thing, it was right across the border. And I said, I take the chance, and I can, it was just driving distance. And because it was so close to the border, I saw the potential there. And
so you're saying the border between your nicer area and this C area. Okay.
Yes.
And did you think it was there that it could be gentrifying, that it could be improving, or it was close enough?
It had already started improving, and the parts, the parts of that area are improving and continue to improve.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to understand. Okay. Okay, please continue.
And like I said, the rents were, fairly reasonable. And I said, this seems like a little low rent here. And, it was about $850 per door. And I did some research and, felt like that, the rents could be higher, but I didn't know how to get there. But all those things that I learned as I went along, the beautiful word called forced appreciation, it came along later. But on the flip side, there was a lot of expenses that I didn't know. I mean, this was a property that was managed by owner's son, and which I found out later. And he was,
there were expenses that were left off the information you were given when you purchased.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, that's a big one. And that's so pay attention to that. That's a big one. So when you get financial information on a property, we teach our students that you have to do what's called normalize the expenses. Okay, where you go through and you you look at each line item, and very often, in that situation, it probably wasn't a line item for management, right? Because the son was doing it. Right.
The son was doing the management. He said the management could be this much, but then the other expenses like snow plowing, right? That he was doing it himself. And if you live in the Boston area, snow expense could be just staggering, depending on the year. I mean, fortunately, this year has been great, but the last year when I had brought the property was a shocker. Right. And it's not that, you can employ somebody to just clean up the snow. You have to have somebody professionally go there. They have to be licensed, all that good stuff. So I used to pray for no snow, whereas everybody in Boston area, looking forward to snow. So that kind of expenses, the pest control expenses, the alarm, all these expenses were left out because either they were not being taken care of, or the son was managing it himself.
Yeah, and let me interject something, if I may. And another thing you'll find, guys, is if you buy from an owner that has multiple properties, what they may do is use their maintenance guy from other properties for this property that you're buying, and none of that expense is going to show up in the T12 or the financial documents that you get. And this is why it's so critical to do what we call normalize the expenses, and you come up with a number for the maintenance based on the age of the property and the size of the property, and and you increase the taxes based on the fact that they're going to go up after the county finds out what your city finds out what you paid for it, and so things of that nature. Okay, so that kind of got you. So what else was a gotcha for you?
I mean, the dealing with housing. There was. I mean, I had no idea about what housing was, and nobody in the rent roll said that this person was housing or this person not housing.
Oh, so when you say housing, you're talking about like Section 8 or something. So you had some low income residents that were getting subsidized. Okay.
Yes.
And there's some nuances with that I'm sure you learned, inspections and things of that nature. Yes.
Absolutely. So you have to be on top of the inspections, and the tenants really don't care much about them, and they know that if they complain, the landlord's going to take care of whatever they need. And so, but fortunately, not be too much of a trouble. A couple of cases here and there, but that's all. Like I said,
sure.
Like my friend Rod calls it a seminar. I mean, these are all little seminars.
Mini seminars.
Mini seminars.
Well, with Section 8, guys, if you ever take those kinds of residents, they do a yearly inspection, and they're going to look for lead-based paint. They're going to look for tripping hazards. They're going to look for all sorts of things. They've got a checklist, and they're going to want suitable heating and air conditioning relative to whatever environment you're in, and things of that nature. But it's just the thing that. The good thing is, back in the day that I did it, they could not pay their rent, they could trash the place and everything else. Now, if they do that, they lose their subsidy, they lose their I forgot the name now. It's like the document that they get. Never mind. I'm
Right.
digressing.
No, I know what you mean.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
They
Yes.
get like a certification of some
They
sort.
get a they get a housing
Voucher,
certificate.
voucher. That's the word I was looking for. They use the word voucher in that space.
Still
But
you.
yeah, they can lose that if they screw around the landlord. So that's a huge plus since the time I did it. So you dealt with housing. What else? What else popped up? Anything else come to mind?
Oh yeah, the rents, were all over the place. I mean, in terms of collection, the Sun property manager was collecting at will. Some rents were coming in at first of the month, some were coming on the 29th of the month, and some were coming delayed from the previous months. So the accounting was a nightmare, and it's just a hassle.
Yeah, yeah. And you've got to convert everybody over to the first of the month and let them know there's a new sheriff in town and there
It takes down, yeah. It
yeah,
takes time, yeah.
it takes time and you lose some people and that and
Yeah.
you realize that you can never let them get behind because if they get behind they rarely if ever catch up and
Yeah.
these are all little lessons that you learn when you
Yeah.
that's okay. I mean, listen, with a 15 unit it's less zeros and it's manageable and so it was a great education.
Like I said, the best investment I ever made in myself
Yeah.
was that. Yeah.
You bet, because you're hands-on, and now you know what to look for in the larger complexes. Well, so let's segue into something now, Raj, that I know you're an expert in, and that is I know that you've spent a lot of time back before artificial intelligence was on anybody's lips. You were working in it, and so let's talk about technology and technologies. The advantage of technology in this space, and maybe you can give my listeners some tips and some resources and some ideas for how they can be more efficient and in this exciting business.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, technology works on certain sources of data. I mean, that's where we have come to, right? The data has become such a critical factor, and it's growing leaps and bounds every single day. Regardless of the industry, real estate just happens to be one, and there is tons of data, census data, income data, neighborhood data. There is so much data that is involved here. And like you basically alluded to, I mean, forget AI, which was, an early start before AI was AI. We were writing in my college in computer science courses, a new language for AI, which, was never published, nothing happened. And then AI was not even a word for a long number of years till that came back recently. But it's the technology, the data analytics, the whole machine learning, all these things have made a far advanced in the last few years.
Right.
And real estate industry is just catching up on that. And when I was in my last startup, which was on big data analytics, machine learning, AI, I saw a lot of usages across different industries. Our focus was pharma and finances, but I saw the need in health and real estate as well. And I took I said, I'll take my expertise to, see what I can do in real estate. Never had the intent of starting a software company because I'd done that for a while, but I wanted to use existing software companies. And there's a number of players out there, some brilliant people graduating out of MIT, Harvard, Stanford, who are, writing software for real estate. I met up with a woman from MIT and who had done extensive research on real estate technologies. And she and I got talking and said, this is amazing, amount of research and R&D that's going into real estate, mostly commercial, but, some residential as well. And I found out all the players. I, figured out who to talk to, what they're doing, the bunch of people, don't want to name names, but the software technologies that are just about to come out or already out there in the market just yet.
And so that's very general. So with some specificity, what do you see these softwares doing? I mean, let's hear some exciting things that are coming around the corner. So what is, once this stuff comes out, how will someone be able to utilize it and what are the benefits?
So absolutely. So one of the benefits, and let's take a software company, again, no names, but I mean, they could, suck in your rent roll, your, T12s, all the data. You just, feed them the PDF and they'll, suck it up, and then they'll create, all based on their, learnings, machine learnings over years, what row in, T12 means what, and they'll create, a proper spreadsheet or some kind of, metrics for you to watch out for. So you don't have to go through Excel and enter line item by line item, and go through T12s and P3s. You just feed the files to it, and out comes a nice
Okay.
pro
So,
forma.
so if you're analyzing a property like we were just discussing, where you need to normalize the expenses, then that's all basically done via the machine learning based on historical data from other properties, what they've spent on expenses, things of that nature. I could absolutely see that happening. I love it.
Absolutely. And you put in the expenses. And if I had put in the expenses in my 15 unit, it would have shown me red flags. Hey, 30% expenses on a C class does not make sense at all.
Right. Oh, is that what it was? 30%?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. I have, we have a lot of students, and we just had a student in Denver send us a deal, and it was a 30% expense ratio. I said,
Yeah.
no, sorry, my friend. 50 is a little more realistic.
Yeah. 50 is where the red turns to green.
Right, unless it's a brand new property, separately metered for everything, and
that's
and
a different
blah blah blah. But and then you may be at 35. But anyway, okay. Well, so that's awesome. So that's a tool. So to do the analysis. Anything else that you saw that rate?
Absolutely. So I'm seeing like a lot of feeding into a lot of property management system. That data has been collected on the renovations that are being done over the years, and so you can basically go into a software and say, I'm looking at a property in this zip code, and I'm trying to put these kind of tiles and this kind of kitchen appliances. What kind of returns can I expect in 5 years?
Wow. So you can actually put the finishes in based on what finishes are in other complexes to determine maximum rent and really what that demographic wants and what that demographic likes. Yeah, see, guys, that's what we have to do. Anytime we find a property, Robert and I will go and shop every single apartment complex in the area and look at the finishes, look at what the rents are, look at the sizes, subjectively look at how we feel about those properties, and then rate them against the property that we're considering to see what we can do to compete and ideally beat. And so there's some subjectivity to it. Now, of course, there's a lot of objectivity as well, because you're looking at, is one of them granite, or is it Formica? Is it a black appliance package or a stainless appliance package? What do the floors look like? They have balconies, fireplaces, washer, dry hookups, things of that nature. But boy, the fact that if you could just plug it in, now, of course, like anything, it's that the data has got to be there. So somehow that collection has to take place. The collection of that data, and it's got to be current as well. So exactly. I could see a hurdle with the current currency of it, just because things are changing so quickly. But I love the idea. Any other stuff that looked exciting to you, Raj?
It's all, like you can, pick up softwares that do a lot of social media analysis, sensitivity analysis. So you can say, okay, this is my property. What are people talking about it, right? They can go into the websites of that property and say, hey,
like reputation management.
Reputation management, exactly. You have the scientific term. Yeah.
And guys, that's really important. And I'm sorry I interrupted you, buddy. That's really important in that, and anytime you're considering a property, you should Google it and see what people say about it. And it's usually not good. It's usually the tenants that are pissed off and they're saying nasty things. But that's why it's so popular to rebrand a property with a new name, so you start fresh and you can manage that process moving forward. And reputation management's a big deal with apartment complexes. If somebody says something terrible, you need to be proactively responding, saying, hey, please contact us so we can take care of you, or our records reflect that isn't what happened. This is what happened, so that you're very transparent. We live in a very transparent world in this day and age. So that AI software could track that stuff for you, then, is what you're saying. So you don't have to do the Google alerts and all that business that we do now to keep on top of that stuff. Okay.
All machine learning and learned intelligence, which is great. And one more example, Rod. I'll give you one more example. So my first property, the larger property, we went on to Georgia and we were doing the lease audit, right? So we got 150 lease documents that we have to go over, and the property management company is doing it.
These are the existing leases.
Existing leases, right?
Okay.
And we go through each and every lease. We see what's missing, what's not missing. If there's a security deposit being paid or not, then we take another spreadsheet and write down on the side this person has no pet deposit or security deposit, or this person has, enough salary to cover the rent bumps or whatever if you do. So basically a tenant profile.
Right.
And I was like, why are we doing this with hand? I mean, so I went back to one of my software buddies and said, if you're building a software, just suck in all the leases. I know there's a privacy issue and all that, but that can be addressed. But no reason for doing this by hand and spending hours and hours for this, something that a software could easily do and tell you that 150 doors, of which 80 or 80% of them cannot afford a rent bump right away based on their salaries.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, that'd be powerful data to have for sure. Very cool. So let me ask you this. Let's shift gears again. Are there any tools available right now that you particularly like in your analysis process? Because you're an expert in the tech space. Are there any tools now that you're using that you like that you could share that may not be the norm? I mean, obviously we all use CoStar and LoopNet and some of these other sites.
But the one that I like, and like I said, I work with this company a lot in terms of helping them and talking to them on a very frequent basis is Enodo. Enodo.
I've heard good things about them. Okay. To talk about Enodo, speak to it, because I'm not familiar personally.
So Enodo is the one company that whatever I described so far, they do most of it, including taking your all T-Trells and all data that you have, rent rolls, T-Trells, all documents that you have, and taking it in and creating the spreadsheets for you, and itemizing every item that is on the sheet and saying whether this thing is under or over to pay attention to. Wow. And they do also the whole, you put in the address, they'll tell you what are the comps within 3 miles, within 5 miles, and what are the comps are renting for per square feet. So you can do a lot of that up front.
Okay. Now, do they scrape that data from some of the other sites, or because do they have a slew of people out there calling apartment complexes, or how do they gather the data?
They claim they're tapping into some of the property management systems.
Oh, okay. Oh, maybe Yardi or something. Okay. Yeah. All right. I've heard that's right. Now that makes sense. Okay.
So they're tapping into the likes of Yardi.
So guys, if obviously if they're tapping into a property management system that's that is handling properties in a particular geographic area, they're going to have all of that data, because all that data is running through the accounting portion of that property management software. Like if you've got an online provider like a Yardi or a large outfit like that, they've got incredible data existing on actual income and expenses, which is about as good as it gets for data in this space. You're not making phone calls and trying to do it by hand or love it.
And I should add that Yardi itself is building their softwares to get up on the value chain.
They're doing it as well. They're doing it as well. Well, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Okay, all right. And so let me ask you this. Talk about, because you started the way a lot of people progress in this business. You're at 550 doors combined now between your GP and LP, and you started with a 15 unit. You started with condos, just like everybody starts in this business. Were there any aha moments for you that come to mind?
Yeah, I would say, so part of the story there was when I got comfortable with what I was doing, and I was at the end of my startup, not end of the startup, I had done 5 years at the last startup that I worked with, my options were fully vested. And I had a decision time to, go for another startup or, take a plunge into doing real estate full time. It was a tough decision, but because I said I can use my energy and focus in doing this if I want to do this long term. And I quit my W-2 to do this full time.
Now let me ask you a question, because this is important. Did you love the tech business?
I love the tech business. I still do.
Do you love the real estate business?
I do.
Okay. Guys, that's so critical. You've got to love what it is you do. And that's why I asked, because you've got such a long tech background, but I know that you're still enamored by it, because that came up before we even started recording, that and even in your bio, you speak to AI and so, and that's why I asked, because it's so important to love what it is you do. Wouldn't you agree, Raj?
Absolutely. I wouldn't do it any other way. If you're not, again, for the audience that listening is, don't do this half-heartedly.
No.
And this is, you don't do this to just make money. You have to do it, love it. You love it.
Oh, good feedback. You don't do it for the money. You do it because you learn to love it or you love it, and the money will come.
Money
Period.
will come. Money will
Yes.
come.
So what other words of wisdom would you share with the people that are listening that maybe have a house or two or a duplex, they know they want more, what advice would you give them?
So where I was going with that is, so, I left my W-2 to, I said, if I do another one of these 15, 20 units, the passive income is going to take care of, a lot of things, my startup salary, which is, not much, but we rely on a lot of an options. So it was a tough decision. But I left out to do, another 25, 50 unit kind of deal. And I looked around in Massachusetts, didn't find much. And my experiences from doing my previous property in Massachusetts, a lot of, it's a very tenant-friendly state, hard to do evictions here.
Right.
And I quickly
it's landlord friendly state.
No, tenant friendly.
You said tenant friendly state. Oh, sorry, tenant friendly. Yes, I'm sorry. I reversed it in my own head. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. Dead on. Sorry.
You want to look for landlord friendly.
Pretend I'm not here. Forgive me.
No. So yeah, I mean, it's a very tenant friendly state, and
right.
very stacked up against landlords, and eviction is hard, and it's all those things.
Yeah.
Quickly, I decided that Massachusetts is very hard to do business, and I looked outside stating, and unfortunately, I was had worked with some people, not worked with, I knew of some people in the whole syndication business. A friend of mine was doing it a couple of years ago, and he asked me to invest, and I said, I don't even know anything about it, so I'm not going to do it till I understand it.
Right.
But fast forwarded 2-3 years, I'm now reading about syndication, and I learned, so I got introduced to the word syndication, and I started learning it. And I literally went to school on it, read every book, every podcast I heard, zoned in, in the other bigger pockets. You have all kind of, there is wholesaling, there is retailing.
Yeah, there's tons of material out there.
So I said, that's not for me. I just need to zone in on multifamily syndication, and that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I said, okay, so the first thing I would say to any listener is, knowledge. I mean, just gain as much knowledge as you can on whatever you want to do. If it's wholesaling, that's fine. If it's syndication, yeah, there's a lot to learn, and do it before you even take your first step. You can do it as an LP.
Even as a passive, right?
Even before
you invest in somebody's deal.
And I'll talk more about it. I talked to my passive investor, said, I'm doing this, but I will not invest your money unless you understand what it is. I had friends, childhood friends. He says, Raj, here's my 50K. I said, no, I'm not going to take it.
Right.
You need to understand what it is, because this is a big responsibility that I'm taking, but you're sharing that with me by understanding what it does and how it works.
I couldn't agree more. We've closed 900 doors in the last 90 days, and part of that process is telling people that don't invest in it if you don't have some basic understanding. And I spend a lot of time with our investors educating them as well. We do webinars, regular webinars. I've had to deal with this crisis in Ohio with our Ohio asset, and I've been teaching crisis management because that's really what we're dealing with right now. And and that's part of the process. But no, guys, you've heard me say this before. Don't invest in anything unless you've got a basic understanding. Don't give someone your money. Go on my Facebook page. You'll see posts I've done for the questions to ask if you're a passive, to ask an operator so that you're protected, and educate yourselves first. So let me ask you a couple last questions. If you could go back in time, knowing what you know now, is there anything you might do differently or tell the younger version of yourself?
I know that's a very question that I've heard a lot on your podcast and other podcasts, and a lot of people say, well, jump into multifamily and 100 units as soon as you can. But I would not say that. What I would tell myself is, enjoy the journey that you have. Just, keep your mind open to, accepting whatever is around you. So learn as much as you can, keep your mind open. Like I said, when I was a 20-year-old, kid in my 20s, computer science was everything. And I wanted to build the next, big startup company. And I thought, sales and marketing is for people that, do not understand computer science. And I was like, whoa, that's not right. And now I know, there's nothing more important than sales and marketing in your job. And so, like I said, it's just a learning curve. You get there when you get there. There is nothing I would have done differently, because I am where I am comfortably today because of what I've done in the last,
Sure. Every piece was important, including that 15 unit, because it was part of your education.
Yep.
No, I get it. And you're absolutely right about sales and marketing. Guys, you pretty much need to know it for anything that you're going to do, period. Okay. You need to be able to sell yourself to anyone, including your family sometimes. And marketing is any business, according to Peter Gruber, and I agree completely, is any business that sustains as just two things. It's marketing and innovation. Okay, that's how a business stays in business. Is it has to know how to market and it has to innovate. Marketing.
And the other thing I would add, Rod, is for listeners again. I mean, trust is a very, very important factor in this game. I mean, trust and integrity. If you don't have that, nothing else that you do. I mean, you can buy the 1,000 doors, but if you can't have the trust or with your investors or your partners, it wouldn't matter. It will not last for long.
Agreed. No, it's a very small world that we live in, and it's and your reputation is everything, and you've got to be transparent. You've got to be, in my view, you underpromise and overdeliver. You don't overpromise, and you're a steward of other people's money. So, you need to be sure you're stress testing your deals right now, and
absolutely
having enough operating.
And I've said it in the past, and I say it again. For my deals, the very first investor in all of my deals has been the same person.
You.
And that's me.
Yeah.
And if I don't, invest in my own deal, and I will never take it to any of my investors. I have to vet it myself and analyze it, believe in it, believe in the partners, and only then I would, agree to, raise capital for it at all.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Raj, you've added a ton of value. It's been a real treat to have you on the show, and I appreciate you being here, my friend. And I know that we'll stay in touch because we have a lot of mutual interests. So great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you listen to podcasts, join me on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to those podcasts. Just search for Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing.
Any investment opportunities mentioned on this podcast are limited to accredited investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure and subscription documentation and subject to all applicable laws.